The room went quiet before I did. Crystal glasses hovered midair. Forks paused inches from porcelain. I felt the sentence land on my chest like a thumb pressing down, slow and deliberate. My brother's wife didn't look at me when she said it. She didn't have to. The damage was already done. My parents said nothing. That was louder than the insult. I smiled. Not because it didn't hurt, because it did deeply, cleanly. The kind of pain that sharpens you. I pulled out my phone. "Cancel the contract," I said softly. To no one at the table and everyone who mattered. One sentence. $30 million evaporated. My brother froze. My mother went pale. The bride forgot how to breathe. I stood up before the silence could recover. The chair barely made a sound as I pushed it back. When I walked away from the table, I didn't look back. They lost the empire before dessert. I wasn't always the problem they whispered about. I was the solution they leaned on. I built the infrastructure they bragged about. I stitched together failing divisions, while my brother played visionary and married ambition with good cheekbones. I worked nights, missed holidays, and signed my name where it should have been because family comes first. I believed that once I stayed invisible by design, power moves quieter when people underestimate you. I let them think I was support staff, logistics, background noise. I watched gratitude rot into expectation. I watched my work get absorbed into his myth, and I said nothing because silence back then felt like loyalty. The company wasn't inherited. It was engineered. I wrote the algorithms that scaled it. I negotiated the offshore manufacturing that kept margins obscene. I structured the shell partnerships that protected us when regulators sniffed around. On paper, I was a consultant. In reality, I was the spine. They knew. They just forgot to remember until the wedding dinner. White tablecloths, soft jazz, a room full of people who believed the story they were told. The bride leaned back in her chair, wineglass dangling from manicured fingers, eyes flicking toward me like I was an inconvenience. "She doesn't run anything," she said amused. "Let her eat with the staff." My brother laughed nervously like a boy, hoping the joke would pass without consequences. My father studied his plate. My mother adjusted her necklace. That was the moment something in me shut off. Not broke, not snapped, locked. I realized then that love had been the leverage they used to keep me compliant, and humiliation was the price they were willing to pay to maintain the illusion. I paid attention instead. Silence is dangerous when it stops being emotional. I finished my water. I folded my napkin. I listened to the room breathe again, unaware it was already dying. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't remind them who I was. I planned. The contract I led wasn't symbolic. It was foundational, that a keystone partnership tied to the company's international expansion. It required my authorization because I was the sole legal signatory on the holding trust. They never changed it because they never thought I'd use it. By the time the main course arrived, the cancellation had triggered a cascade. Penalty clauses, confidence collapses, calls unanswered. Investors pulling back not because they were afraid, but because they were smart. Money hates instability, and instability loves arrogance. The confrontation came later. In a private room that smelled like expensive wood and panic, my brother slammed his hand on the table. "What did you do?" Emit his eyes. Calm, curious. I enforced boundaries. Damn, why mother cried quietly. She asked how I could do this to family. I asked her how long she'd watched them do it to me. The bride didn't speak. She stared like the floor had disappeared beneath her heels. The empire she married into was already dissolving. Not dramatically, precisely, the worst kind of loss. I explained nothing more than necessary. The contracts were mine. The protections were mine. The exit clauses were written by me years ago when I understood that one day loyalty would be mistaken for weakness. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. They offered apologies, negotiations, tears dressed up as remorse. I declined all of it. Power doesn't argue. It decides. I walked out with my name intact and my future unentangled. The company unraveled without me, slowly, publicly, painfully, not because I attacked it, but because it had been leaning on something I'd refused to respect. Here's what I learned sitting alone afterward in the quiet they never gave me. Betrayal doesn't always come with knives. Sometimes it comes with laughter at a dinner table. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be irreversible. And family, when it forgets your worth, forfeits its access to you. They thought I ran nothing. They were right. I ran the end.